I'm of the opinion that video game adaptations are very rarely worth watching. In most cases, the movie ends up either being way too boring and nothing like the source material, or the viewing experience ends up being comparable to having nails hammered into every inch of your body. However, I'm always willing to admit when I'm wrong, and with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure live action looking better than any of us could have hoped for, and Netflix Death Note and Ghost in the Shell being a thing, we seem to be seeing a lot more of these live action adaptations. However, very rarely does something that I personally love end up getting an adaptation, never mind a good one, so I'm still cautious. But nothing could prepare me for what I just witnessed. After seeing the credits roll in Yakuza 3, my friend and I decided that it was time to finally hunt down and watch the 2007 live-action Japanese adaptation of Ryu Ga Gotoku, or as it's known in English, the Yakuza 1 film. While I had seen some screenshots, I went into this movie almost completely blind and was expecting a mediocre adaptation, but what I got was an entirely different beast. If you've never played Yakuza 1, the basic plot is as follows. Kazuma Kiryu is a Yakuza member in the Tojo clan. He takes the fall for the murder of his Oyabun to protect his friend Nishiki who actually shot him. 10 years later, he gets out of prison and the city of Kamurocho has changed. 10 billion yen has gone missing from the Tojo clan and Kiryu can't seem to find any of his friends. The game has Kiryu searching for the woman he loves while he attempts to find the little girl's mother. Pretty basic, right? There's a lot going on in the first Yakuza game, but really those are the important bits. So, how does the movie handle this plot? Well, to give you the quick answer, it doesn't. Like a Dragon decided that instead of just focusing on the plot of the game, it would have 4 main plot lines all going on at the same time. We've got Kiryu and Haruka trying to find Yumi, with Majima following them and shit-stirring as usual, but then we've got these 3 other bizarre storylines. One involving these 2 comically bad bank robbers attempting to rob a bank, 2 young teenagers who decide to become a Bonnie and Clyde style duo, and a subplot with someone? I still don't know who this guy is meant to be. He's only ever referred to as one of Majima's men. So anyways, the movie kind of generally follows the beats of the game. You've got the dog food, fighting Majima in the batting cage, the showdown in Millennium Tower. It's all kind of there. While each of the individual stories kind of come together in the end, they don't really impact on each other at all. The focus of the movie is constantly shifting back and forth between these different groups, and while the movie adds all of these new characters, it also drops a lot of the original game's cast. Detective Date is there, but he doesn't really do anything at all. He kind of just acts like a dick the whole time. And Kage is replaced by this creepy, masochistic Korean guy? So, if the movie is so strange, how could I possibly have enjoyed it so much? This movie explains nothing, and it's kind of beautiful. It seems like only Kiryu really cares about the 10 billion yen, and the movie just kind of throws you between all of these random scenes. For example, halfway through the movie, Kiryu gets a call from Kazuki telling him to check out a place called Star Video, where apparently Majima goes for information. Then he runs into Majima and agrees to fight him. Then we cut to the Bonnie and Clyde couple buying guns at that video store, and back to the fight at the batting cage. Back to buying the guns, but now the Majima guy is there too. Then we cut to the bank robbery and they're eating food with the hostages? Then we get this amazing scene where Date walks down the road, turns around, runs up some stairs and shoots someone, and I still have no idea why or who it was, but whatever, because now we're in the ambulance with Majima and he does this.
ちょっとカムロ町に戻ってやダメですよ危ないですから何するんですか Then back to the Bonnie and Clyde, but now Majima's guy is sniping them with a revolver and aiming at this guy, who I assume is meant to be Shimano, because why not? And then we finally make it back to Kiryu at the video store. It's just pure chaos in its greatest form. I genuinely had no idea what was going on half the time. The movie just relishes in it, so I almost don't care. Woo boy, are some of these actors just the absolute best. Most of the time when you've got very eccentric, or for lack of a better word, video gamey characters, it can be hard to authentically portray them in a live action setting. But somehow, Takashi Miike managed to find the one man who can portray a character like Goro Majima almost flawlessly. Goro Kishitani should be a household name based on how amazingly he portrays the unbridled madness of Majima, especially from Yakuza 1. Every scene he's in is just fantastic from beginning to end, and while this movie gives up on being faithful a lot of the time, this is the one aspect that they dared not mess with. After that, everyone else is pretty decent. Kiryu's actor is about what you'd expect, and everyone seems to play their roles pretty well. Also, shout out to the little girl who played Haruka for being pretty much the perfect Haruka as well. The fight scenes, while not exactly being the raid, are most definitely entertaining and have pretty good choreography all in all. Of course, the fights with Majima and Kiryu get special attention, with one of my favorite scenes in the movie being Once again, the movie is just pure madness, and nobody on set really seemed to mind, and I wouldn't have it any other way. The last 20 minutes of this movie are the absolute best. You see, in Yakuza 1, the final showdown in Millennium Tower involves Kiryu fighting Nishiki and a man named Jingu. While these two characters are mentioned throughout the movie, we don't see them once in the first hour and a half. It's as if the director looked at the ending of the game and thought, oh fuck, those characters are important? So Nishiki just kind of strolls into the movie like, oh, okay, I'm a villain now, and Jingu gets on his helicopter to reach Millennium Tower. Just when I thought Fuma wasn't going to be in this movie, he just walks in and blows Majima away, and by that point I'd given up. It's like they literally forgot what they were making in the first 3 quarters and just threw all of the important characters in at the end. I swear the dog has more screen time than Nishiki or Jingu. While Jingu never speaks or does anything of importance really, he is played by Toshihiro Nagoshi, the producer of the Yakuza series, which is one of the best cameos I've ever seen. Seriously, if you like Yakuza, the fight between Kiryu and Nishiki has one of the greatest moments in cinema history. I'm not going to spoil it, just trust me and watch it. Some of you might be wondering why I think this movie is so good, despite the number of negative things I've said about it. As far as movies go, it's actually quite bad. The story is messy, it's got too many characters, and it's quite clearly done on quite a low budget. But it has one thing that a lot of live actions don't. It has heart. A lot of live action adaptations try too hard to be serious, and that's not to say that Yakuza isn't serious. There are a lot of very heartfelt moments in Yakuza 1, and they could have made a real crime movie about the game, but instead they decided to make it an action comedy, with heavy emphasis on the comedy. The movie may not be perfect, but it has heart. I sat through the live action Ghost in the Shell movie a few months back, and while it wasn't absolutely terrible, it was a very dull adaptation. It tried to rewrite the story while keeping the same base work, and took it in a very weird direction. Ryu Ga Gotoku, on the other hand, takes the base story and makes it so ridiculous and weird that it barely resembles the original, but still somehow ends up at the same point. Clearly the director cared about the source material, or else characters like Majima and Kiryu wouldn't be given the amazing depictions that they did, and the nods littered throughout this movie, such as the fake store names and the healing items being visible in multiple scenes, wouldn't be there. This is very clearly not some Uwe Boll bad movie adaptation. Technically, again, this movie fails as an adaptation. It rushes everything, removes a lot of important characters and character relationships, and adds in so many unnecessary supporting characters. It expects you to already be a fan and know the story before you watch it, and stops to explain very little. If this is your only exposure to Yakuza 1, you'll be very confused throughout a lot of this movie. There's a weird recurring theme about the weather being too hot and global warming, and there's scenes like this. However, if you're a fan of this game, it's almost beautiful how weird of an adaptation it is.
It's equal parts faithful and unfaithful. For every scene where Kiryu doesn't know how to use his phone, there's another scene with two teenagers robbing a bank. For every scene where Majima is being Majima, there's a scene with a bunch of police officers stuck in a hot room staking out a hostage situation. It's beautiful in how chaotic it is, and it's the kind of movie that you would get a few fans of Yakuza together, pop open a few cans of Suntory, and just have a good time. Hell, that's what I did. And maybe I wouldn't have enjoyed it so much if I watched it alone, but I had an absolute blast looking at my friend wide-eyed while Majima shot baseballs with enough force to knock Kiryu back multiple feet. My love for this movie is as unapologetic as the people who made it. As much as I love the serious character drama of the Yakuza series, I wouldn't change anything about this movie. If you haven't already, then do yourself a favor and get this movie. You won't regret it. You just might need to have at least played Yakuza 1 to fully get it, but hey, it's just as easy to turn your brain off and watch the pretty colors. Thanks for listening to this very gushy video. I really do think this movie is an absolute laugh and should be added to a list of so bad it's good movies. It's extremely underrated in my opinion. But alas, if you want to see more of my videos, then stick around. And if you do, I'll see you when I see you.
Go! Kill this arrogant motherfucker!